They smile at you, they sit across from you, they speak as though their every word is carved in honesty. Yet behind their calm eyes lies a hand they never reveal. Have you ever wondered why? Why some people weave stories with such precision, yet leave out the very truth that could define who they really are? It is because the real hand, the real face, carries a weight they cannot afford to show. It carries fear, guilt, and the risk of losing control. They would rather live in fragments of illusion than stand in the full light of truth. And so they hide, they disguise, they play their game in the shadows, hoping you will never ask the one question that shatters their mask. What are you hiding from me? And from yourself? The mask they wear, they enter the room, and the first thing you notice is the calmness, the ease, the smile that feels practiced, but warm enough to lower your guard. You see them, but what you see is not truly them. It is the mask they crafted, the armor they wear to move through this world without being questioned. The mask is their strongest tool, and it has been polished for years. Every gesture, every pause, every calculated glance is designed not to reveal, but to conceal. They want you to believe in the picture they painted, not the canvas underneath. And so, the mask becomes their second skin, stitched so tightly to their identity that even they forget where the act ends and where the truth begins. But why the mask? Why the need to dress themselves in borrowed colors instead of standing in the nakedness of truth? Because the mask protects them. It protects them from the shame of being seen, from the fear of rejection, from the possibility that if you looked close enough, you would see the cracks they never wanted anyone to notice. Behind the mask lies insecurity, wounds, and sometimes intentions so sharp they cannot risk being exposed. The mask is their sanctuary, and yet it is also their prison. For a person who spends their life hiding never truly lives. They only perform. Think about it. How many times have you met someone who seemed too good to be true? Their stories lined up perfectly, their charm was almost theatrical, their consistency so rehearsed that it felt unnatural. That is no coincidence. That is the work of a mask. People wear them not because they are strong, but because they are terrified that their real hand, the unpolished truth of who they are, would never be accepted, respected, or loved. So they polish the mask instead. They feed the illusion, and in doing so, they sacrifice their authenticity for control. The mask is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is subtle, almost invisible. It hides in the smile that arrives a second too late, in the tone of voice that sounds reassuring but never quite sincere, in the words that are said with conviction but lack the depth of real feeling. The mask is not about lies alone. It is about hiding the truth in plain sight. They reveal just enough to appear honest, but never enough to risk being vulnerable. Their strength lies not in what they show you, but in what they refuse to show. And that refusal, that careful silence, is what keeps their game alive. Do not mistake the mask for confidence. It is not confidence. It is camouflage. It is the art of making themselves appear larger than their shadows, brighter than their flaws, stronger than their weaknesses. The mask says, look here but not there. Believe this but never ask about that. They control the narrative and the mask is their stage. Without it, they fear collapse. Without it, they fear you will see the trembling hands, the restless heart, the truth that has been buried for years. The mask is the performance of a lifetime, and they are the lead actor in their own theatre of survival. Yet, the irony is cruel. The longer they wear the mask, the more they lose themselves. The mask demands perfection. It demands silence when they want to scream, composure when they want to break, laughter when they want to cry. It demands that they deny their truth so the illusion can live. Over time, they begin to forget who they were before the mask existed. They forget the unpolished, raw, imperfect version of themselves that once longed to be seen. They trade that version for applause, approval, or simply the safety of not being questioned. And in doing so, they become strangers to their own soul. But here is the deeper tragedy. The mask is not only about them, it is also about you. The mask is a mirror. They wear it because they fear what you might do if they revealed their true face. They fear your judgment, your rejection, your disappointment. They fear that you, too, would wear a mask in response. And so the cycle continues. Masks facing masks, illusions conversing with illusions, while truth lies silent in the corner, unseen, untouched, unwanted. Entire relationships can be built this way, two actors bowing to each other, never realizing they have never truly met. The mask they wear is heavy, but it is also seductive. It fools not only others but themselves. After years of wearing it, they begin to believe it is who they are. They defend it, protect it, even nurture it. The mask becomes their identity, but beneath it, a war rages silently. They know in their quiet moments that the mask cannot last forever. That one day, in the stillness of truth, someone will see beyond it. And that day terrifies them more than any other. For when the mask falls, what remains? What fragments of themselves are left to hold? And so, they continue the performance. They laugh when they should weep. They agree when they should protest. They charm when they should confess. They keep the mask polished because they believe it is the only way to survive. But survival is not living. And while they may keep their real hand hidden from the world, they cannot hide it from themselves forever. The mask, after all, is only borrowed strength. And borrowed strength always fades. The truth is simple, but devastating. The mask is not worn because they are fearless. It is worn because they are fragile. And fragility disguised as strength is the heaviest burden of all. Fear of exposure behind every mask lies a trembling truth. And behind that truth lives a fear so sharp it hates every move, every word, every silence. That fear is exposure. The terror of being seen not as they pretend to be, but as they truly are. It is not the world they fear. It is the mirror. Because the mirror does not lie, the mirror does not flatter, and the mirror does not wear masks. And so they run from it. They fear the moment when the reflection exposes not the crafted illusion, but the raw reality they have buried beneath layers of charm and control. Fear of exposure is not always loud. Sometimes it whispers. It whispers in the hesitation before answering a simple question. It lingers in the way their eyes dart when you ask for details that never existed. It trembles in the rehearsed stories that sound too polished to be lived, too neat to be real. This fear is the root of their silence, the reason for their carefully chosen words, their endless detours around the truth. To be exposed is to be vulnerable, and for them, vulnerability is not weakness, it is annihilation. Consider this. People who carry secrets do not walk the same way as those who carry freedom. Their posture betrays them. Their eyes flicker when truth passes by. Their breath shortens when honesty presses too close. Exposure to them is not about being caught. It is about being stripped. Stripped of the power they hold when you only know fragments. Stripped of the respect they demand without earning. Stripped of the image they have spent years cultivating. Exposure threatens everything they have built, because what they built was never a home, only a facade. That is why they cling to shadows. Shadows give them safety, because shadows do not demand explanation. Shadows allow them to hide flaws, inconsistencies, and intentions. In the dark, they are untouchable, unseen, invulnerable. But light, light is merciless. Light does not negotiate. Light exposes the scars, the lies, the contradictions. And so they avoid it. They fear conversations that dig too deep, questions that cut too sharp, moments that demand authenticity. They laugh quickly to cover silence. They shift topics to deflect truth. They smile when they want to run. Every gesture is not about expression. It is about protection. Protection from being revealed. But why such terror of being seen? Because exposure means accountability. If you knew their real hand, you would no longer trust their words. If you saw their real intentions, you would no longer believe their charm. If you recognized their real fears, you would no longer follow their performance. Exposure breaks the illusion, and without illusion, they are powerless. Their fear is not of you. It is of what you will do once you know them fully. Will you walk away? Will you confront them? Will you demand answers they cannot give? To avoid these questions, they choose the mask. They choose the shadows. They choose silence disguised as strength. And yet, exposure is inevitable. No mask survives forever. The cracks always appear, subtle at first. A story retold differently. A smile that doesn't reach the eyes. A promise that evaporates in the moment of testing. And with each crack, their fear grows sharper. They scramble to cover, to adjust, to redirect your attention elsewhere. They craft new versions of the truth, layering lie upon lie, illusion upon illusion, until the weight of their performance becomes unbearable. Fear of exposure forces them to live not one life, but many, none of them real. This fear is not weakness alone, it is also exhaustion. Imagine carrying a heavy glass mask everywhere you go. You cannot drop it, you cannot scratch it, you cannot risk anyone seeing what lies beneath. Every interaction becomes a calculation, every word rehearsed, every silence dangerous. That is how they live, constantly calculating, constantly rehearsing, constantly fearing the one slip that will unravel it all. Exposure to them feels like a death sentence, because they believe they are only as valuable as the mask they wear. But here is the haunting truth. The fear of exposure reveals more than exposure itself ever could. When someone is terrified of being seen, they are already confessing that what lies beneath cannot withstand the light. Their silence is an admission. Their nervous laughter is a confession. Their avoidance is a revelation. You do not always need to catch someone to know their truth. Their fear betrays them long before their mask falls. Fear speaks louder than exposure itself. Still, do not mistake their fear for humility. It is not humility, it is control. They fear being exposed not because they want to be better, but because they want to remain untouchable. They hide not to protect their heart, but to protect their power. Because power built on illusion collapses the moment truth enters the room. And so they grip their mask tighter, they polish it brighter, they protect it as though their life depends on it. In a way it does, for without the mask they believe there is nothing left worth seeing. And so they continue. Day after day, year after year, they hide. They weave illusions, they fear mirrors, they silence truths. They run not from others, but from themselves. Because the greatest exposure is not being seen by you. It is being seen by the reflection they avoid. They cannot face themselves, so they cannot let you face them either. And that is why they never show their real hand. Not because they cannot, but because they will not. For to reveal it would mean admitting that all along they were never who they claimed to be. The game of shadows, they never showed their real hand because their world is not built on truth. It is built on shadows. And in shadows games thrive. Shadows are not just the absence of light. They are the stage upon which deception performs its finest act. In the dark, the rules are different. Honesty has no place there. Sincerity does not survive. In the shadows, power belongs not to the genuine, but to the cunning, and that is where they feel most alive. The game of shadows is not loud. It is subtle, patient, calculated. They move carefully, never too fast, never too bold. Like a chess player who thinks 10 moves ahead, they calculate what to show and what to conceal. Every word becomes a weapon, every silence a strategy. They know that clarity ends the game, so they never offer clarity. They offer fragments, hints, illusions, just enough to keep you engaged, never enough to let you win. Why shadows? Because shadows bend reality. In the dark, a small object looks larger, a weak hand looks strong, a trembling heart looks unshakable. Shadows distort, and distortion is their shield. When they speak half-truths, shadows amplify them until they appear whole. When they hide their motives, shadows cloak them in mystery until you cannot distinguish sincerity from deceit. They do not need to overpower you, they only need to confuse you, for confusion is power, and uncertainty is control. They understand this game because they have practiced it for years. They know when to reveal just enough to spark your trust. They know when to retreat into silence so your mind fills in the gaps. They know when to create drama so you mistake distraction for depth. And all the while you do not realize you are not dealing with a person. You are dealing with a performance. The shadow is not just where they hide. It is what they have become. The game of shadows thrives on your curiosity. They give you a puzzle but never the pieces. They show you the picture but blur the edges. They let you sense the truth but never confirm it. And in your search for clarity, you begin to chase them. That is the brilliance of their game. You do not realize that while you are chasing answers, they are leading you deeper into their maze. You think you are unraveling them, but in reality, they are unraveling you. Shadows are seductive because they make you believe there is something more to uncover, something deeper waiting to be found. You tell yourself, if I stay long enough, if I listen closely enough, if I care deeply enough, I will finally see who they truly are. But that is the trap. The game was never designed for you to win. The closer you get to the truth, the more they retreat. The more you demand clarity, the more they dissolve into vagueness. And in that endless dance of pursuit and retreat, they hold the power. The brilliance of this game lies not in what they show, but in what they withhold. They never reveal the full picture because the full picture would end their advantage. Shadows thrive on half light, half truth, half intimacy. Enough to keep you near, never enough to let you in. And so they stretch the game endlessly. One day they offer warmth, the next they vanish into cold silence. One moment they appear vulnerable, the next they shield themselves in iron. You are never certain, never grounded, never secure, and that uncertainty keeps you tied to their game. But here is the truth they do not want you to know. The game of shadows is not a sign of strength, it is a sign of fear. Only those who cannot stand in the light choose to live in the dark. Only those who cannot endure truth choose to play with illusion. The shadows are not their kingdom, they are their hiding place. They play the game not because it makes them powerful, but because they cannot survive any other way. Shadows are not choice, they are necessity, and yet, do not underestimate the cost of this game. Living in shadows means sacrificing authenticity. It means giving up the possibility of being known, of being loved, of being truly seen. Because shadows may protect, but they also isolate. They may conceal flaws, but they also conceal beauty. They may hide pain, but they also hide joy. To play the game of shadows is to trade genuine connection for controlled performance. It is to live in constant vigilance, always hiding, always adjusting, always fearing the day when the light breaks through. This game may grant them temporary control, but it steals from them the very thing every soul longs for, peace. You cannot have peace in shadows. You cannot rest when every word is a calculation, every silence a tactic, every gesture a shield. And so, though they may appear calm, inside they are restless. Though they may appear composed, inside they are fractured. The game consumes them even as it manipulates you. But here lies your power. Once you recognize the game of shadows, it loses its hold. Once you see that confusion is not your weakness, but their weapon, you stop chasing clarity from someone who will never give it. Once you understand that shadows only thrive when you keep searching within them, you step back into the light. The game cannot continue without your participation, and the moment you refuse to play, the shadows collapse. Because shadows cannot exist without light. They are not entities of their own. They are distortions created by what blocks the light. And once you remove your attention, once you refuse to give energy to the puzzle they present, the shadows dissolve. The game ends not by winning it, but by walking away from it. They never showed their real hand because their entire existence is tied to this game. If the game ends, the mask falls. If the mask falls, the fear of exposure becomes real. And so, they keep you in shadows. But remember this, shadows are not eternal. Light always waits. And when you choose it, their game ends forever. The price of the hidden hand: every mask has a cost, and every shadow carries a debt. The hand they keep hidden is not without consequence. It comes with a price they must pay every single day. At first, it seems manageable, even clever. They believe they are escaping judgment, protecting themselves from pain, preserving their power. But what they do not see, or perhaps refuse to see, is that the very act of hiding slowly consumes them. The hidden hand becomes a burden heavier than truth could ever be, and over time, that burden turns into chains. The first price they pay is restlessness. To hide requires vigilance. To conceal requires energy. They must always be on guard, always aware of what they have revealed and what they have not. Every word they speak must be measured. Every memory must be rehearsed. Every detail must align with the illusion they crafted. This constant watchfulness exhausts them, even if they never admit it. They cannot rest, because rest requires honesty, and honesty is the one thing they cannot afford. They lie awake at night replaying conversations, wondering if they slipped, if someone noticed the crack in their story, if tomorrow will expose what today managed to conceal. That is the price of the hidden hands, sleeplessness wrapped in silence. The second price is loneliness, for how can they truly be known when their true hand is never shown? People may love them, admire them, even trust them, but deep inside they know it is not them being love, it is the mask. And what is love without truth? It is a performance applauded, not a soul embraced. They cannot let anyone too close, for closeness risks exposure. They cannot let anyone touch their real hand, for that would mean vulnerability. So they keep distance, sometimes physical, sometimes emotional. They smile, they laugh, they play their role, but the deeper connection, the one that nourishes the human spirit, remains out of reach, and so, surrounded by people, they remain utterly alone. The third price is fear of collapse. When you build a house on false foundations, you live with the knowledge that one storm could bring it down. They know their illusions are fragile, that one question too sharp, one moment too revealing, could unravel the entire facade. That fear stalks them like a shadow, always present, always whispering, "What if they find out? What if this ends? What if the truth escapes?" They may smile outwardly, but inwardly they brace for impact. And living in constant anticipation of collapse is no life at all. It is survival in its most exhausting form. The fourth price is identity loss. The longer they keep their real hand hidden, the more they forget what it looks like. The mask becomes second nature, the lies become habit, the shadows become home. At some point, they no longer know where the performance ends and where the truth begins. They confuse illusion for identity, forgetting the raw, unpolished version of themselves that once existed. They bury that version so deeply that even they struggle to find it. And when a person forgets their own hand, their own truth, they are not living. They are disappearing, slowly, silently, without notice. The fifth price is guilt. Though they may never confess it, though they may laugh to cover it, guilt lingers. Guilt of what they hide. Guilt of the people they mislead. Guilt of the life they could have lived if they had been brave enough to be seen. Guilt is patient. It does not leave. It gnaws at them in the quiet moments, in the stillness when the mask is not needed, in the silence where shadows no longer protect them. They may distract themselves with noise, with control, with games, but guilt always waits. And guilt is a debt that grows heavier with time. And then, perhaps the greatest price of all, the loss of peace. Peace cannot coexist with pretense. Peace cannot live where truth is buried. They may achieve power, control, admiration, but none of it will bring rest to their soul. For peace belongs only to those who stand unmasked, those who carry no fear of exposure, those who have nothing to hide. They may laugh loudly, but their laughter echoes hollow. They may smile brightly, but behind the smile lies a war no one sees. Peace is the price they forfeited the moment they chose to hide their hand. But here is the cruel irony: the very thing they fear, exposure, would cost them less than the price they already pay. Truth may wound, but it also heals. Vulnerability may shake, but it also frees. To reveal the hand may invite judgment, but it also invites authenticity. Yet they choose the harder road, the heavier burden, the endless debt. They choose to protect their illusions, unaware that the cost is their own soul slowly slipping away. The hidden hand is not power, it is prison. It traps them in cycles of fear, guilt, restlessness, and isolation. It demands that they sacrifice their humanity for their performance. And while they may believe they are winning by hiding, the truth is this: they are losing more than they know. Losing their peace, their joy, their connections, and eventually themselves. So, the next time you wonder why they never showed their real hand, remember, it was not because they were strong. It was not because they were wise. It was because they were afraid, and in their fear they chose to pay the heaviest price of all: a life lived in fragments, never whole, never free. Your liberation, they never showed their real hand. Yes, they lived in masks, they moved in shadows, they paid their price in silence. But this story, in truth, is not about them. It is about you. Because the moment you stop chasing their hidden hand, the moment you stop trying to tear away their mask, the moment you realize that exposure is not your task, but their burden, you are free. Liberation is not found in unmasking them. Liberation is found in unchaining yourself from their illusion. For too long, you may have believed that if you could just understand them, if you could just see the truth behind the disguise, you would finally have peace. But the peace you search for does not rest in their hands. It rests in your own. Their secrets are theirs to carry, their shadows theirs to inhabit, their guilt theirs to wrestle. You were never meant to be the keeper of their hidden hand. The moment you release that need, you reclaim your strength. Liberation begins with a simple truth: you do not need their honesty to live in yours. You do not need their clarity to walk in your own. You do not need their light to shine in yours. They may never reveal their hand, but you can reveal yours. They may never step into truth, but you can. And when you do, you break the spell they cast over you. Their mask loses its power. Their shadows lose their shape. Their silence loses its grip, because the game only works when you play it. The moment you step away, their performance collapses. Freedom is not about exposing them. It is about exposing yourself to yourself. It is about standing unmasked, even if they never do. It is about refusing to hide your hand, even when theirs remains hidden. It is about choosing truth, even when they choose shadows. For liberation is not control over them. It is release from them. Ask yourself, how much time, how much energy, how much heart have you given to someone's hidden hand? How many nights have you replayed their words, trying to decipher what was real and what was illusion? How much of your light have you dimmed, trying to illuminate their darkness? That is the weight you no longer need to carry. Their secrets do not belong to you. Their illusions do not belong to you. Their shadows do not belong to you. What belongs to you is your own hand, your own truth, your own life waiting to be lived fully without masks. And here is where the shift happens. The very thing they fear, exposure, is the very thing that liberates you. When you see through their disguise, not in detail but in essence, when you recognize the game without needing to know every move, you are no longer trapped by it. You stop asking, why don't they show me their hand? And start declaring, I no longer need to see it. That is freedom. That is strength. That is your liberation, because liberation is not found in their reveal. It is found in your release. The release of expectation, the release of obsession, the release of needing answers they will never give. When you step back, when you let go, you discover something powerful. You were never bound by their hand. You were bound by your pursuit of it. And once you stop pursuing, you are no longer bound. You are free to live in truth, free to walk in light, free to breathe without the weight of their shadows pressing on your chest. And when you are free, everything changes. The games no longer lure you. The masks no longer charm you. The shadows no longer intimidate you. You see them for what they are, fragile illusions crafted out of fear. And you no longer feel the need to fight them. You do not fight shadows. You step into light. You do not rip away masks. You refuse to wear your own. You do not demand hidden hands. You extend your own openly, without shame, without fear. That is the mark of liberation, not tearing down their disguise, but refusing to live in one yourself. This is the truth they never understood. They believed power lived in hiding, but real power lives in revealing. They believed strength was in deception, but real strength is in honesty. They believed survival required masks, but real survival requires authenticity. And though they may never see it, you can live it. You can choose a life where nothing is hidden, nothing is feared, nothing is shackled by silence. That life is waiting for you the moment you decide their shadows no longer dictate your light. Liberation does not mean indifference. It means clarity. It means you can still see them, still understand them, even feel compassion for the weight they carry, but without being chained to it. You no longer bleed for their silence. You no longer lose sleep for their shadows. You no longer sacrifice your peace for their hidden hand. You acknowledge it, but you do not absorb it. You recognize it, but you do not chase it. You let it be, and in doing so, you let yourself be. And so, the question is no longer, why did they never show their real hand? The question becomes, why should I keep waiting to see it? You are not here to wait for someone else's courage. You are not here to waste your life in someone else's shadow. You are here to live fully, authentically, unapologetically. Their hidden hand is their burden. Your open hand is your liberation. So walk forward unmasked. Speak truth, even when silence feels safer. Show your hand even when others hide theirs. Choose light, even when shadows invite you. For the greatest act of defiance against their illusions is not to tear them apart. It is to live so fully, so freely, so fearlessly, that their games can no longer touch you. And when you do, you will find what they never could peace. The peace that comes from having nothing to hide. The peace that comes from no longer chasing answers. The peace that comes from standing in your own truth, unshaken, unafraid. That peace is yours. That is the price of liberation. That is the reward of walking away from shadows. That is the gift of choosing truth over illusion. They never showed their real hand, but you did. And that is enough.